Let's talk about sexual health. For real.
Hello and welcome to the AUM Web Radio. Today you're here once again with the team of sexual health, and we are recording another episode for you today. Today I'm here with my fellow volunteers. Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Anna and I'm from Germany.
Hello there, I'm Antoine from France.
Hello, I'm William from France.
My name is Ida, I'm also from Germany, and today we will be talking about sex and relationship.
Let's talk about sexual health. For real.
As an introduction, William once again prepared a quiz for us. So please ask us some beautiful questions.
Okay, so remember last week the questions were not that easy. But this time, since we're going to talk about sex and relationships, this one I think is a little bit more easy, and you will have to guess sometimes. So I have 6 questions. So the first one, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Pretty easy. I want to see the hands raise up. I want to see people being super on board.
Yes, Mr.
What does the acronym LGBTQ stands for?
So the first one, L, lesbian,
Mm-hmm. You can
gays,
Yeah.
bisexual,
Mm-hmm.
transsexual,
Transgender.
transgender, queer.
Yes.
Yes. And the little plus.
For everybody who's not identifying with all 5 of them.
And it's for also anybody that doesn't identify as cisgender in a non-hetero relationship. That's basically what the acronym stands for. So it's an umbrella term that just includes everybody that doesn't conform with non-cisgender or non-heterosexual relationships. So that's the first one. The second one, you can have one more or less. Do you know how many colors does include the flag? Including, it's the most recent one, it's the Progress Pride flag, including people of color and transgender. And intersex.
I'd say 12.
Okay.
I would say 10.
Okay.
I would say 9.
Okay. Antoine is the closest one. It's actually it's actually 13.
Okay.
It was led by Valentino Vescietti. I hope I'm saying it right. Who is an equal right who is an equal right activist, and this flag is called the Progress Pride flag because it includes the values, the usual values with the different colors, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, black and brown was added more recently 4 years ago, which was meant to represent people of color that were the ones that were more discriminated also against, and white, blue, and pink for the trans community, and more recently for intersex people, the yellow with the circle in purple. So that makes 13 colors. But it's really a recent change because the pride flag has been kind of the symbol for the LGBTQ community, and it's also a way to recognize almost every single kind of sexuality that is out there and that needs to be represented as well. So, third question. What does non-binary, the term, means?
I think a person that's just not identifying with any gender.
Yeah, or at least not the normal ones that we know. Like it's like a spectrum, so in between male and female.
That's the idea. Yes, it's basically someone that doesn't recognize themselves in the gender roles that have been established, which is, as you said, like male, female, men and women. Sorry, and usually they would prefer to be referred as the pronoun they, them, as a kind of respect. And yeah, you said it perfectly. It's pretty much that. As I said, you see, pretty easy questions.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I took into consideration the first one. This one is a little bit more serious, but I needed to talk about it. You will have to guess. The question is the following one. What is the percentage of, in the United States, of youngsters that, in quote, seriously considered suicide in 2020? Young LGBTQ.
In the United States.
Yes.
40% maybe. 45%. 45%.
For me, that's quite a lot. I mean, I think that the number is quite high, like alarmingly high, but 40% is quite a lot.
What do you say, Anna?
I mean, you're kind of grinning, so it's like
Give an
most
answer.
likely somewhat right.
Be bold.
Okay, then I am going to say 35.
I am saying less. I would go with like 20.
Okay. The answer was 40%.
Oh my god.
Yes. According to the Trevor Project, which is an organization that is focused on crisis intervention and suicide prevention with the LGBTQ youth. 40% of the youngsters seriously considered suicide in 2020. I also think there is definitely COVID that got into that statistic. But for me, it was really interesting to ask that question because mental health is really important regarding the LGBTQ community. And it's also interesting to point out because we could think, because it's the United States and maybe it's law-wise a more open country, that the LGBTQ people would probably maybe feel safer or better, but it's not necessarily the case, and it's really an alarming statistic. And I would like also to point out that there are still more than 80 countries where it's still illegal to be LGBTQ. And I took the example of the US because it was like very a good way to show the distress of the situation. I would like also, just a disclaimer, to say that in Romania, if you are seeking for help, there is a hotline, a crisis hotline, which is the following number, 0800 801 200, open from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. This hotline has been created by the Romanian Alliance for Suicide Prevention. You can also email them at sos@antisuicide.com. So that was important for me to mention that because I think it's important to have these little keys in case somebody needs help, and I don't know who is actually listening to the radio, but it's important at least that they can have some keys in case of help. So in a more lighter note, I will ask you a little bit about STI because we are going to talk about that subject later, thanks to Ida.
Thanks.
It's very, very, very easy. What does HIV stands for?
The H stands for human, and
Yes.
then it's the
Immunodeficient virus.
virus. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Then can you tell me the difference between HIV and AIDS?
HIV is a virus, and AIDS is like the symptom, but like
Syndrome, yeah.
no, you can. It's a disease you will develop
As
in
you
the
get
last
from
the third stage of HIV.
Yeah.
Yes.
And oftentimes that's not treatable anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, they go hand to hand. HIV, as you said, like is the virus, which stands for human immunodeficiency virus, and AIDS is the condition led by HIV, which by the name is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So contracting HIV can lead to the development of AIDS. And it's important, and we're going to talk about it with Ida, but it's important to really make the difference and also recognize which one is what and know the difference and also the name of it, because to this day there are still people that obviously get confused because of like information. So it's very important to take the time to talk about it, which is what we are gonna do today. And last question. What are the most 5 or 6 most common STIs?
I will go for syphilis.
Chlamydia.
Gonorrhea.
HIV. Mycosis.
The first one, I don't know.
Herpes.
Yes.
Nice.
Scabies.
There is that one, for sure, but there is one that you did not mention. It's pretty common.
Is it the one that is like dangerous only for women? The one that's
HPV?
sterilized? Yeah.
HPV, yes. So, yes. So, Ida is going to talk about that in a more deeper level. But that was a way to introduce to the subject of STI.
Thank you so much for your quiz, and thank you for the great introduction. Yes, I will be talking about STIs. STI stands for sexual transmitted infections. Then you also have STDs, which is sexual transmitted disease, just for the definition. And yeah, so first I want to talk about the way you can get infected by STIs. So the main course is spread by sexual contact, which can be vaginal, anal, and oral sex. And also it can be non-sexual means, like for example the sharing of needles, breastfeeding, and blood-to-blood transfer, as well as skin-to-skin contact. And also some STIs can be transmitted from mother to child during pregnancy and childbirth. And the main 80% of all STIs are without symptoms. So most people who are infected by them don't actually feel it. And there are different ways you will feel that you have an STI. For example, for men, the most main symptoms are pain or discomfort during sex and urination, and also rashes and bumps around the genital areas, and discharges and bleeding from the penis, as well as painful or swollen testicles. And for women, they're a bit different. The main one is also pain or discomfort during sex or urination, as well as bumps, rashes, and pain around the genitals, but also discharge or bleeding from the vagina and itchiness around the vagina and changes of the female cycle. So as a question to you, I want to ask, like, what are the main STIs you know, and also what you know about them?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, maybe about the HPV, the papillomavirus, is a disease that you can contract. Not only women can contract, but men can transport, but not get infected with. And it can provoke not the sterilization, but yeah, the
infertility.
The infertility,
yes,
towards the woman. Yeah.
I know a little bit about herpes. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it can have different type of manifestation and also causes. It's not necessarily sexual. It can also be from the environment, from also the routine that you can have that can create it also the herpes. I think also it can appear on the mouth, like on the mouth, but it can also be situated in the genitals as well. I'm a bit more confused with chlamydia, to be honest, because it's more specific, but I think you're going to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean also HIV, at least in
Yes,
our
yes.
school, there's a lot of people talking about it. And I mean, it can be also transmitted by like sex, and I think you can also have it like if the mother of a child is pregnant, so that the child still has it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, no, not necessarily,
It depends.
but it can be.
If there's a blood contact, yeah.
And I mean, and it can lead it to having AIDS, so the latest spectrum.
Yeah. Okay, so I will talk about the main STIs now, and all of my information I have from the website of the World Health Organization, and it's the rubric of sexual transmitted infection. There you can find a lot of information about STIs and how to prevent them. And yeah, so the first one I can talk about, like, is the one you mentioned, William, the herpes. It's a virus, and you can be infected by the virus from contacts of body liquids. but also during birth. So it's like if your parents both carry the herpes virus, you normally also get it. But some people live with the virus all their life, but they never have any symptoms. And there are some things that can trigger them. But yeah, if you have it, it's mostly like the rashes around the mouth or around the genitals. And when you actually have them, those blisters, they're highly infective. But there's no treatment, no cure for herpes, but there's treatment for the symptoms you're having. So yeah, it's a virus, and it's also the outbreak. Like it's not only connected to sexual contact, and also like stress, for example, can be one of the reasons. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is chlamydia. And chlamydia is also one of the main ones because most people don't actually have any symptoms when they get infected with chlamydia. And you can get it with sex without condoms, oral, anal, and vaginal sex, and also just by touching genitals. And chlamydia is also can be transmitted while during the birth from mother to child. And yeah, the symptoms can be, I mean, normally people don't have symptoms, which is, so like this is also one of the reasons why you should get tested regularly. And the symptoms can be pain and discomfort during sex, and green and yellow discharges from the penis or from the vagina. And when you're not treating it, it can cause to infections of the prostata, the testicles, and the urethra. Mm-hmm. And also it can cause infertility. I heard, yeah. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and when people women get pregnant, doctors are checking on that a lot because you can pass it to your baby and they can actually suffer blindness and like the lung infections. Pneumonia. Yeah. Wow. But it is treated with antibiotics as soon as you know that it can be perfectly treated. And in Europe, most women between the age of 15 and 24 suffer from it. Wow. Yeah, because women are more likely to get infected. Okay. Yeah, so now the next one I want to talk about is HPV. And it can not only be passed by sexual contact, it can also be passed by intimate skin-to-skin contact, and also just the contact of the genitals. And it's the virus itself has different strains. And the strains have different, like some of them are not as risky, and you will actually not have any symptoms, but some of them are actually pretty risky, and it can lead to cancer, like oral and vulvar and rectal cancer, and also penile cancer. Yeah. Yeah. But there's no treatment right now. The symptoms can be treated, but the illness is itself not the virus. But there's a vaccine for boys and for girls. So guys are also like protecting the girls and the other way around. So yeah. And also the vaccination numbers are rising in Europe a lot. So people are getting more safe towards this STI. Mm-hmm. And also some people can get infected, can just heal from alone. But also you can prevent it by using condoms during sex. So, do you have any questions at this point, maybe?
No, but that was very instructive. Thank you very much. Okay. Very good teacher. Okay. Consider it.
So the next one is syphilis. And syphilis is actually the STI in Romania with the most numbers. And it's a bacterial infection. And it is unnoticed in the early ages. So you actually don't realize it at the beginning. And you can also get it from unprotected sex. And also just because it's syphilis, the bacteria get into your body with like small wounds. So while you have sex, like vaginal, anal, oral sex, it can be transmitted. And right now, there are more annual cases of syphilis than HIV in Europe, because syphilis numbers are rising extremely. And for example, here in 2002, there were recorded 400 cases, and now it's in 2012 it was already 1,700 cases. So numbers are rising. And yeah, but the symptoms that appear are small and round sores at the genitals, the anus, and the mouth at the beginning, and it can be painless, but they're extremely infectious. And yeah, and when you don't treat it at the beginning, you can get hair loss, weight loss, and rashes. And then when you don't treat it after all, you can lose your vision, your hearing, your memory, and you can have heart diseases, and it can actually lead to death. It's one of the ones that, when it's untreated, it's the most dangerous ones. Yeah, but if you find it out early, antibiotics can treat it pretty well. So The World Health Organization says you should get tested once a year, so you can actually prevent suffering from the disease. Yeah. Any questions?
No. The first thing, the thing that came into my mind is get tested, because that's the best way to know.
And condoms that clearly protect yourself.
Yeah.
In any cases, if it's in the right process. Yeah.
So the next one, William already talked a little bit about, is HIV. And HIV is a virus, and it's damaging the immune system. So one of the main risks is, because the body gets extremely weak from the immune system damages, that you can your body can more easily suffer from like viruses and bacteria in general, and a lot of cancers are connected to HIV. And when HIV is not treated, on the third stage of HIV, you have the disease of AIDS. And in HIV in general, in early stages, it's just like having fever and chills and swollen lymph system and headaches. And then it can just go away, and you will not even recognize it anymore. But you can still, it will get worse. But some people actually don't even feel the first stages of it. So it's also, again, very, very important to get tested. And HIV is carried through unprotected sex, oral, anal, and vaginal sex. And also it can be given while birth and while breastfeeding and blood transfusions. And right now there's no no proper cure, but you have amazing medicine, and so you can actually reach the point where it's not detectable anymore, and also you can not transmit it anymore. And so the medicine is incredibly well. But still, you should also get tested once a year, and it's the only way you can actually find out if you're infected. And
Also, if in the first 24 hours if you're infected, you can always contact a certain the hospital, for instance, and you might even get to the root of it and then get rid of it before you actually started the SIV infection.
Yeah.
And
there's also
there is the pre-exposure treatment and the post-exposure treatment.
So if you have any suspicion, don't hesitate to go to the nearest hospital.
Yes. Better to prevent than actually have it.
Then the next one I will be talking about is gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is also a bacterial infection, and most of the people as well don't have symptoms, and you can get it from unprotected sex. And people who do have symptoms have white, yellow, and beige discharges from the penis or the vagina, and also discomfort during sex and urination, and itching genitals. And it can lead to the infection of the urethra. Am I pronouncing it right? Yes, okay. Prostata, testicles, and women can also suffer infertility. And it is as well also transmitted while birth. But you can also treat it with antibiotics. So again, get tested, use condoms, and if you feel like you're not feeling good, you always should go to the doctor, and there will be, in most of the cases, treatment for it. And so this is it for the STIs. I will just give a little sum up, because some things that I think are all important for us to mention is that condom use is good for preventing having STIs, but also unwanted pregnancies. Birth control is not something where you can lower the risk of lower the risk of STIs. So condoms are always really important, and also regular STI screenings, as we mentioned before, and also talking to your sexual partner about their sexual history, and if they get tested, what tests they made is super, super important. And always, if you have any problems, go see your urologist or gynecologist. They can give you further informations, and they can also help you. And it's very, very important to honestly talk about it as well, because otherwise STIs will still be a big, big part of our society. But by being more honest and raising more awareness, I think there can be more improvements done.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I hope you all learned something. It was a lot of information, I know, but I think it's really important to mention it. And now, after that, Antoine will be talking a little bit about
condom use.
Condom use, yeah.
I'll just give you a few tips, maybe, if you didn't know them, about how to use properly a condom or how to maximize the efficiency. Yeah. So first of all, I want to retake what Ida said about condoms. It's the best solution against STIs and pregnancy both, to prevent both. And if you do it the right way, then the percentage of actually getting infection on an unwanted pregnancy is quite low. So, a few things to do before putting on the condom, for instance. So you should always store it in a dry and cool place. And when you take the packages, you should check also if there is a bubble in the package. If there is, it means that it's untouched, and then the condom is supposedly in a good state. Yeah. And also check the expiry date every time. I mean, sometimes it's dark, you can't really see, but give it a second, really, because otherwise it might break easier or some things like that. And also when it's on, you should also press the little bubble that comes on the top of the condom around the prepuce, yeah. And you press it to release the pressure, so then there's no risk of crack in the condom or that it sort of explode because of the pressure it goes between the coming and going, yeah. And also, before putting the condom, verify you don't have any fluids like sperm on your hands, because if you put in a condom, then there's no use of putting one. So before, be careful when you do it. Like, just take the external part instead of putting your hand inside. Do it properly. Take your time.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Take a shower. It's better if you all clean before, so wash your hands. It's always something good, honestly. Then it's not mandatory, obviously, and nothing of it is. But if you can use lubricant, it can reduce the way of the condom to crack, and it can also obviously feel better because the condom have only a few lubricant on it. So if you can add some more, that's even better. And when you finish, please don't throw it in the toilet. It's just not recyclable. Just throw it in the garbage, your private one if you can. There it is. And that was my little tips. I hope you can maybe think about it and rearrange your own with what I said. It could be great. If my co-hosts have more tips about it, maybe.
I don't have a tip, but I have a question. I mean, it's for all of us. But there are like some condom flavor. Does it really change anything?
Those are only for oral use. Yeah, those are really thinner actually, because when you put it on, it's supposed to feel more during for instance a hand job or a blow job. So it should not be used
as penetration.
As penetration, never. It's thinner. It's not as stable, thick as a material like the latex is thinner on those. So yeah, please don't try it. And there's a taste. There's no point in doing a penetration with it anyway. Like, you can't taste anything from your vagina. I'm sorry.
No, but good to know. I mean, maybe you wanted to use some strawberry flavor condom, so now you know you shouldn't do penetration with it.
Yeah, please don't.
Okay. Thank you for the information. Now we will be having a little song break, and we will be back afterwards. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Another day has come and I feel the same as always. Emptiness in my heart, I have no control. Molested blind man eating held by the demons, stealing freedom. They're raping our dreams, raping our dreams. But my soul won't forget all these pretty moments. I wanna believe ships on sail. Fear is the strongest weapon used against us, shooting our hearts, breaking our hearts, breaking our
Let's talk about sexual health. For real.
Hello and welcome back to this episode of the H.U.M.A.N Web Radio. You're here with the team of Sexual Health and we are talking about sex and relationships. So the next topic, Antoine, William, Anna and I are talking about is pregnancy and consent.
And I will lead the discussion, and I'll start first with this following question. If you know how pregnancy happens.
By having sex.
Thank you. And
not all the time.
Do you know,
Yes.
exactly?
But most of the
Thank
time.
you. And do you know the process maybe? Like in what context maybe you can, because you can have sex, but still like even before actually ejaculating, the pre-cum, the lubricant that you can see on the penis, it still contains a bit of spermatozoids, so you can still get pregnant from that. Even if it's quite rare, it can still happen. Still also, if you can name other ways of when you're not penetrating and ejaculating, other ways of getting pregnant outside, like if there's no ejaculation inside the vagina.
I mean, there is something totally beside sex. There's also the
Fertility clinics and so on.
yes, I mean the how to say that?
In I think it's artificial insemination,
Yes.
something
Yes.
English.
Yes.
In French, yes, but not in English. But
Yeah.
I think we know what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
So there's this, but I think sex in general, I mean, not only penetration, also like genital contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For instance, if your partner comes near to your genitals, so it can be just on in the vagina or in the vulva, whatever, the risk is quite low because the spermatozoids can't actually live long outside of the body. But it still can happen. So if there's, like for instance, the technique of the pull-out is not 100% far from it, because as I said before, the penis when it's erect and when the person is, let's say, horny, you're gonna produce this pre-cum to make your penis more lubricated, and then if you start penetrating, there's still quite a risk of getting a chance of pregnancy.
Mm.
Also, the chance of getting pregnant depends on any moment in the cycle of menstruation, etc. So it should happen usually 10-14 days before the menstruations, but it can differ depending on people.
Yeah, and also the cycles are so different that actually like having sex because only in the times you're not fertile is not very safe, because you actually your cycles can change, and then your moment of fertility can actually also be longer, for example, and also sperm can live in the body up to 2 days.
Yeah.
So it also, yeah, it's not a way of preventing pregnancies. Not a safe one.
Indeed. And just to finish that, so if you're not planning on a pregnancy, it's important to be careful about the technique of the pull-out. It doesn't really work. If you want to prevent any way of getting pregnant, you should go for the condom, as we said earlier, because it's also prevent STIs, STDs. So I think that's the best way, the safest way.
Yeah, and also birth control. There are so many ways of birth control.
True.
Right now.
But as Ida said earlier, birth control doesn't help in any way to not get STIs. It's important to remind that. And also, in terms of birth control, we talk about the pills, but there's some safer or like easier ways. For instance, like having an implant in the arm, or having a sterile, that can be better for every woman. So you should also see with your gynecologist for any solution that could be better for you, because there's like a lot of solution, and if you can afford it, or if you can think about it, then it can be only nicer to have a bit more of choice, I think.
And also, not everything is good for everybody. Only because like one person feels good having like taking the pill, the next one can have like the most insane side effects, and it's like, I don't know.
Everybody's different, sex-wise, control pill-wise, etc. So you should really, you do you, but try to get the most information as you can. It's really important, because it can literally gives you more time to think of pregnancy. That's a pretty big thing still. All right. If anybody have questions or anything to add, I'll be glad to talk about it. No?
No, I just wanted to know in how much is the percentage of safety with the condom?
98% in my memories, yeah. Because there's like the failures considered to the factory failures. For instance, if there's like a crack already in the condom, a little thing, this is what reduces the percentage. But if you put a condom, do the step as I said earlier, you should be fine. You should be just fine, yeah. But there's no such thing as risk zero, so you can only make it better. And see, for instance, if when you finished to touch the edge where the sperm is stocked, to see if there's any leak or thing like that, so then you can react also faster, and to have the freedom to choose afterwards if you actually want to take the risk or not. So things like that, yeah. Now, before any kind of sex or any kind of relationship that is close, we obviously have to talk about consent, and this is my next subject that we're gonna talk about us for. And I have a question for you guys again. So what would you define as consent, and how would it be important for you?
I think in general we can all agree on that consent is pretty much the most important thing in like any kind of relationship, especially like sexual relationships, and that only like that if both parties agree on whatever they want to do, it's consent. So also it's people can change their mind. So even if people say, okay, I'm fine with that now, as soon as they say, okay, I'm not fine with it at the moment, and I changed my mind, and people like would continue, like the other person would continue with whatever they're doing, it would be not consensual and against this kind of law or the consent in general. And
also, I mean, like no means no, and also when a person is not able to give an answer, it will always mean no. And also if a person is not conscious, is drunk, is under the influence of any other drugs, or mentally not stable or physically not stable, then it always means no.
Yeah, I was going to say it's about communication, verbal or non-verbal, but also awareness of the parties, because it could be also easy for another person to take advantage if the person is not in the right mental state, or drunk or drugged. So yeah, it's about like also knowing like where the boundary has to stop.
And same if you condition it, someone to have sex with you, like, hey, if you have sex with me, I give you this kind of relationship. This is not really consensual. Just making fake promises and lying to get your means, so it's not actually consensual. If you're not honest, there is no consent really. All right, and
Is this it? Okay,
I
perfect.
think it could be it.
Thank you so much. It was super interesting to talk about it. And now the second part of this episode will be Jana, and she will be talking about different kinds of relationships.
Okay, first of all, I want to ask what kind of different types or forms of relationship do you already know?
I'm gonna say casual one. A casual relationship.
Oh, there's one funny one we talked about the other day, the situationship.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. Can someone give?
Yeah, okay, like a situationship is kind of a romantic relationship, but it's not explicitly defined.
Right.
And it's a bit more than a friendship plus kind of, but yeah, still like more of that.
Okay.
Just undefined kind of.
And like a non-sexual relationship.
No, it's a sexual relationship.
No, like I was just saying another one. Yeah.
But we're talking about like romantic relationships at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like being with someone but not having sex. Like I said, yeah.
I don't know if platonic goes into that.
That's what I said pretty much, no?
Yeah.
But platonic is maybe just a friendship more than a relationship.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes, me too. I mean the monogam relationship in general.
Yeah, I mean monogam, there are different kinds of, but like I think committed relationships, so that you are in a like sexual relationship with somebody, and you can also like it's for the long term, and you can have like the foreseeable future in mind, which is like not the case in, for example, a casual relationship is just a relationship, but you don't necessarily see a future with a person. And then of course there's like casual sex, and then the situationship we already talked about. And then non-monogamy, so like a polyamor or different kind of relationship where you have multiple sexual partners at once. At least that's most of the time the way people define different kinds of relationships. Also, like of course you can have like a broader spectrum and different kind of definitions in order to make it like more clear. But at least those are the most common ways to identify like different kinds of relationship. And also I wanted to know, like now we talked about like the different kind of definitions or like the different kinds of relationship that exists. What kind of relationships could you imagine for yourself, and why, or already had?
Good question.
I already had several, if I may start. I already had a non-sexual relationship, casual ones when I was committed, and also one or two when I was polyamorous, and yeah, it was multiple sexual partners, but we are still engaged with each other.
And I don't know if it's too personal, you have to say it, but what makes you say like, okay, I want to like experience a non-monogamy like relationship where you were like, okay, that's like the next step for me?
There's no step. I think it's just really situational depending on the people you're with. You just come to a different arrangement. I think it just works for this time, and I don't think there's any pattern in this, because afterwards I also had some others when I was committed. I think you can still feel for someone on different levels, and it can be sexual or still relationship wise. So that's why.
I can see myself in a committed monogamous relationship. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of curious about the polyamorous aspect of it, like of a relationship, but I'm still, I have a little question mark about it. It's like, I'm a little bit curious about it, but I don't know. But yeah, I see more myself in a monogamous, relationship. I think I think it's pretty nice. I don't know. That's what I'm more like attracted to. But I mean, a casual relationship is always nice, in my opinion.
I mean, I've never been in a relationship, but I also think it really depends on the partner and on the situation you're in. I mean, if you have like a committed relationship with someone and then at some point you want to try something out, I think this is also pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's really nice that the construct of relationship is also really developing right now, and it's also giving more freedom and more space for creativity, let's say like this, or people just wanting to be a bit yeah, and
adventurous.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah, I mean, I would like to try out some different kinds of relationships, but right now not.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, I'm like, okay, you should never say never, but still it is like some stuff that I could not imagine for myself at the moment. But also I think that it's important to mark that every relationship that you're in, no matter like sexual or not, should be healthy and good. And therefore also like, I mean, we already talked about consent, which is like a big thing in like a healthy relationship, but also what makes like a good relationship or a healthy relationship for you.
Honesty, communication. I think this is like the most important things for like a healthy and good relationship as well, and to talk about everything.
And an improvement. Yeah, and that if you talk about something, there had to be some changes afterwards if you agree to it. You know, otherwise you just fall again in the lie and the disrespect. So I think if you got to respect the other person in this way.
I think empathy, like not necessarily to be the biggest empath of the world, but I think sometimes you have to also have the awareness to understand like what your partners is going through, and also like vice versa. Like both parties have to understand, they can have the awareness to get a little bit of the feeling of each other. But that goes also with communication. But I think empathy is super important in a relationship, in a healthy one.
Sure. Also, I would say communication and honesty are like, for me, that at least the main points. And also, I think that like the different kinds of relationship that like we all now talked about kind of changed over the last couple of years a lot. So that people are getting more open-minded. Also, like on social media and so on, you can see a lot more different kinds of relationship being represented. And so, like, I mean, for example, polyamorous relationships were, like, unthought of only maybe 20, 30 years ago. And so I think that the perception and the views already changed a lot. But also, how do you think the perception and views on different forms of relationship are going to change during, like, the next 30 years?
I think to talk about being single, I think this is changing a lot and changed a lot in the last years, because you can be independent way more and you're not like depending on a husband or a partner, like financially and also like socially. Like it's very normal and tolerated and accepted to be single. So I think this also gives a lot of freedom to relationships, because people are actually going into relationship because they want to. Like it's nothing you have to do. So I think there's a lot of development there now.
I also think that the overall the dating scene, the like relationship has tremendously changed since the past 20 years, because also like marriage as an institution is not as strong as before. All the maybe traditional values that were really strong before are not as like important-ish, and I think that plays into that, and the fact that there are like so many different types of relationship that are arising as well. I think in the future I wouldn't be surprised if we see more polyamorous relationship, non-monogamous, because I feel like our generation is, whether it's on purpose or not, but we are going kind of as the opposite of what was before. So I can see like the development of like non-monogamous like relationship like rising a lot.
And regarding that,
which could be interesting. It's interesting for me to try to think about it and wrap my head around that.
Yeah, and also I think that people are getting more open-minded towards it, and just like, okay, yeah, whatever, we can try it. And also I think that the way our the way we are dating changed a lot, especially during COVID, but also before. I mean, when you think about our grandparents, like it was one village, and then they're like, I don't know how many people like from the youth and the villages around. So you have like maybe a school full of people, and then you have to find the person there, or I don't know, very limited. And I mean, like during the, like, and also everybody was expecting you to marry at some point. I mean, I don't know when my grandparents married, but I mean, they were like in their early 20s. And now it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to marry, maybe I'm going to not marry, but also like the whole construct, as you said, of marriage is like shifted a lot. And a lot more parents or like families are also like either divorced, so that it's like single parenthood, or like, and then there are different kind of people coming, going, whatever. And so also like the dating scene has changed a lot. Or like while like for our grandparents it was like that and writing letters or whatever, now it's like Tinder and different kind of dating platforms that we also like talked about in our like last podcast a bit. And so yeah, the dating scene or like meeting new people has changed.
And I also think that with this there's a lot of benefits from it, because by people being more free of actually choosing how they want to live, the mental health can increase a lot, because like outliving your needs and your preferences and how you feel comfortable is really important for mental health. And I think this is a very nice very nice thing that we can see, like if it's on like social media or like just people in our surroundings, that there are many people really being happy about their life construct regarding relationships. So I think this is also like a very nice thing that is changing.
Yeah, I agree. And also like regarding the dating scene, it's also the casualty of the relationship that has been like more and more and speed up. I'm sure before it was already happening. Obviously we're not the first one to do it, but but it's for me it's super interesting to see how more casual our relationships, and how it is more like fluid, and it's I don't know if it's a transition. I don't know if it's gonna stay like this, but it's definitely, you can see that there's a total difference compared to, I don't know, 30 years ago when it wasn't like that. But I think also it's like the family system, as you said, is different. The education, this is different. So many little things connected to that are so different that in return, I think that's why we have so many different types of relationships and of situationships, apparently. Still, that word is like...
It's beautiful, right? I really like it.
Something I saw that is evolving right now is people that are less slut-shaming than before. Otherwise, before you would just see a girl making love with different partners and they would be calling her a slut. But nowadays, it's getting more and more accepted. Multiple partners try doing some kind of limited period, and people are more open about it because everybody likes sex. And I think it should be more democratized in this sense that people could be able to choose at what frequency they could have sex, or with whom, or what kind of number of partners, what kind of practice they want to have. That's also a thing that we see changing. People are getting more open to more spicy things, let's say.
And it's not a taboo anymore to talk about it. Yeah.
And people are more focused on giving pleasure to people rather than having a body count. And I think this is quite good.
I think that especially like this non-taboo is like super important, because I mean sex people exist because of sex, so it should not be like such a taboo thing to talk about. And I think that is something that also changed a lot. And also I mean it reflects in the way we have relationships, like the different kinds of forms of relationships and the way we are dating, for example, like on Tinder, like different platforms, or I don't know, just casually.
Yeah, but I also think it really depends on where you go.
That's true.
I mean, all of us are we're from Germany and France, so the dating scene, I think, in our countries is still very different from other countries, and also the way how it's like very fastly developing. But yeah, I think, I mean, we are very lucky that it is the way it is. True. And a lot of people feel very safe and happy about that. But there's so much more to go everywhere around the world. And to find also more laws that give people a safe space to outlive their relationships and their sexuality. And I think this is, like I said, also a lot of improvement needed.
Yeah, and also like that we're super lucky because especially like in different kind of countries it's still illegal to even have, I don't know, be gay, be bi, whatever. And for example, once I wanted to go to Africa, like in like Rwanda, and like while I had the interview in order to go, the person was like straight in my face, was like, okay, are you gay or are you bi? Because otherwise it can be like it's illegal in the country and it's unaccepted and you can land in jail. And that was like one of the questions, and that kind of shocked me because of course I know about it, but still it's kind of like striking.
Yeah, it's like this subject of relationships or even like sex is like super interesting because we definitely come from, I would say, like a privileged country, because law-wise it's a little bit more accepted. There is still discrimination and there will still always discrimination because there are still people like that, but it's interesting to compare with some other countries where it's definitely not as accepted, whether it's LGBTQ-wise or just, let's say, the marital status or just family status. It's less open-minded and less like it's still very traditional, which is a thing, but it's interesting to see like both sides where it's like more open, more fluid and free, and on the other hand, maybe a little bit less fluid.
I'm actually super excited to imagine how it will be in the future, because like when we keep on normalizing the things that should be normal, and I mean there are already so many great things happening, and I don't know, I would love to know how the dating and relationship thing would be in 50 years. I cannot really picture it, but I think it's super, super interesting.
But I agree. And just with COVID, I read, I don't know how many articles where you see, my relationship evolved because we had a long-distance relationship. And this whole COVID, I think, put a lot of things in perspective regarding relationship. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if we even mentioned that, but like long-distance relationship, it's a whole debate. It's a whole new debate. And we have so many devices and apps that can, like, you can try to maintain the relationship, but it's also a whole thing that wasn't really there before. I mean, you send a letter. I mean, by the time that you receive the letter,
already 50.
So now you can just boop, boop.
Yeah.
You call the person.
Amazing. I think we could talk about those subjects for hours. It's super, super interesting. Yeah, thank you for everything. This is already it. An hour went by very fast. How are you feeling?
Great. And you're a man.
Nice.
Nice. So thank you for the listeners for listening, and thank you for giving us some attention. And our names were
Anna,
Antoine,
William,
and Ida. And this is already our last episode about sexual health. But you can check out more information on the YouTube and Instagram page of the H.U.M.A.N Association. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And tomorrow there will be a next episode from our former volunteers of the nutrition team. And thank you so much for listening, and have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's talk about sexual health. For real.